What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the intern. My name is Chadwell, and today, like always, an interesting video for you here on the channel. What would Cooper Flagg look like on every team in the lottery? Now, technically, there's a little bit of space on the lottery. Maybe the Magic, maybe the Clippers, maybe another team enters the lottery because of the funny chaos of the plan. But we are not technically counting those teams today. We're looking at the teams currently, when you're kind of really seeing the video, on who will be in the lottery if this was today. So that's most likely going to be the lottery. There might be one or two teams at the very end, but does Cooper Flagg with the 14th best odds, does it happen? It'd be very rare. I think it would be a first time ever, if I'm not mistaken, if it happened. So it doesn't really matter too much. But we're still going to look at what Cooper Flagg would look like on every team and look at it from a fantasy perspective. Obviously, if you have the 101, which we're going to be talking a lot about the draft in these next couple of weeks and up until the draft, because most leagues are ending. There's not really, for dynasty basketball at least, there's not really much to do. You have the offseason, you have trades, you have drafts, literally about it. Other than that, it's really, in a regular life, the playoffs are going on, having fun. So, yeah, what would Cooper Flagg look like on every team? We're going to go through it, and we're going to talk about fantasy-wise, how would it look like, starting with the best odds right now, Washington Wizards. Now, you're going to see a video maybe next week talking about where you kind of would want Cooper Flagg to go and where no-nos are. No-nos you're going to probably see coming up in the next few days. For the Cooper Flagg situation for the Washington Wizards, I would have to say, in a lot of these, you have to think if you're 101 or picking Cooper Flagg or getting Cooper Flagg, what do you want? What are you expecting? The Wizards is a pretty good area. I truly do believe the Wizards can, build some players and make some players into real superstars with the refreshment of their front office. Right now, if Cooper Flagg would go to the Wizards, and for most teams I'm going to talk about today, Cooper Flagg is now the franchise player. Wizards, he's the franchise players. You have co-stars in Alex Sarr, Blanco Bali, Bob Carrington. They talk about trading Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole's been pretty decent, pretty still a co-star. But no matter what, Cooper Flagg's the main piece. And that's what you're wanting if you're 101 or wanting to have, Cooper Flagg in your team. You want it where he's the franchise player, the franchise guy moving forward. And Cooper Flagg is that at power forward for the Wizards. And I do believe this would probably be a pretty good situation for him, because the situation is he's the top player, he's the top guy there, and he has co-pieces already building for him. Up next is the Utah Jazz. Now, I think the Wizards situation is a little better than the Utah Jazz, but I still don't think it's a bad situation. Cooper Flagg, in my opinion, would go... Oh my gosh. Lauri Markkanen didn't want me to say his name. Lauri Markkanen, I feel like he would be a better player than Lauri Markkanen, and they would value him at least as a better player, because Cooper Flagg has it all. Defense, the scoring, the passing. He is the top guy in this draft, and he's probably the best top guy we've had since Wemby, and before that, maybe Cade or Zion. It's just somewhere around there. So I would have to say, and I wouldn't say 2020 only because 2020 was an interesting year. We didn't know how great Ant was going to be. We didn't know how great LaMelo Ball was going to be. Of course, they became really good players. We didn't know back then. Okay, that's the truth about it. But Cooper Flagg, very good. He would be the franchise player, and obviously the biggest piece moving forward. He would work with a Utah Jazz that has the pieces to probably compete, in my opinion. You're not maybe seeing them immediately in the playoffs, but you can see him being there with the plan. Kind of how the Spurs are this year, because you think they have Lauri, who they kind of tanked a little bit. He hasn't played much. You have good bench pieces. You have good young players. And you have a pretty good, center power forward duo right here. Up next is the Charlotte Hornets. I think when you're thinking of a perspective of in real life, this would be insane if they got Cooper Flagg, which we're going to talk about how in life and fantasy is completely different. This would be really great for the Charlotte Hornets, and truthfully would be the best thing for them. Is it the best for Cooper Flagg in fantasy? I don't think so. I think he's not the franchise player. I think LaMelo Ball is in contention there. I think Brandon Miller could be potentially in contention, but I think Cooper Flagg might go him out a little bit. I think those are the three. The rest would be pieces, and you already have Miles Bridges, who would want some touches, Mark Williams, who they might trade. Charlotte's a little scary too because of how they develop players and how they really have just grown players overall, this is a little scary. I think when you're thinking of, can he be his max potential, I'd be a little bit worried he would go to the Hornets. And I like to think about, for example, for the Victor Wembanyama year, Wemby could have gone to, think about the Hornets, he could have gone to the Blazers, he could have gone to all these different teams. And let's say all these different teams, the Pistons, for example, would have got Wemby. Wemby would have still been good, but would he have reached his max potential like he could have on the Spurs, who he's the automatic franchise player and they're going to build a whole team around him and do everything around him? I don't think that he could reach his max potential like it would be the Spurs. I think the Spurs was the best place for him to go, and luckily he got there. So that's why kind of what we were talking about today. New Orleans Pelicans is another one that I think if the Pelicans get the number 1 overall pick, real life wise, my God, I'm a Pelicans fan. I'm happy. If you get the number 1 pick, no matter what, you're going to be happy, and it's going to be nice for the Pelicans. But my God, Cooper Flagg, I'd be a little worried. You have Zion there. I think that's a contender for franchise player, but I think they would still value Cooper Flagg maybe. Trey Murphy is an interesting case after this year. He's shown that he can really play basketball and he could really, be impressive and do better than a lot of players. I would have to say that Trey Murphy might contend for being right now the franchise player, but I would still probably choose Cooper Flagg. There's just a lot of talent and a lot of places the ball has to go, but still, he would be the franchise player in my opinion, by far. Up next, we have the 76ers. I have to be honest with you, I don't think the 76ers are as bad as the situation as it could be. Because if the Sixers get the number 1 pick, you could have an interesting scenario where the Sixers are realizing they're a little younger. They're going to be a little bit different in maybe how they value things moving forward. Like Embiid's injury, like Paul George. And they could really value Tyrese and Cooper as the future, with Jared as well. And Paul George, Joel Embiid, and any other player that's older, they might push away. So maybe you have an interesting scenario where Cooper Flagg, maybe he's not the franchise player of Tyrese, but he's a co-franchise player of Cooper or with Tyrese Maxey. And they kind of value them the same way. Because I think Tyrese makes sense because he's right now good, but Cooper Flagg in the future is going to be probably better than Tyrese Maxey, especially fantasy-wise, but not real-life-wise. I just have to believe that 76ers might not be as bad as I would think. I think there's a good chance that with the Joel injury and the Paul George injury, and just injury history actually on Paul George, they could have a interesting way where they really value youth over, the vets. Up next, the Brooklyn Nets. In my opinion, you're going to see this in another video. This is the best, if not the best places to go. Because it's like I just said with the Spurs situation with Wemby. When you have a place where there's nothing there, there's no talent there, there's not for sure franchise players, you entering a situation where there's nothing there and you can really, really grow and you can really be the guy for the team and get the minutes for the team, that's probably the best place to go. And for the Brooklyn Nets, they have shown coaching-wise they are going to be fine. Fernandez has been an excellent head coach for them this season, and he's proven it with this roster that he can compete somehow, some way with these top teams, which is insane because, in my opinion, Brooklyn Nets have the worst roster in the NBA. I just think that when you consider pieces and everything like that, they have the worst roster. Picks-wise, they have 4 first-round picks, it looks like, coming into this year. So it's going to be fine for that. But this is the best place for Cooper Flagg to really grow as a guy. And I think Cooper Flagg would be great on this team. Up next is the Toronto Raptors. Now, I would have to say maybe Raptors is one of the worst places he could go. Because you have to think, you see the starting 5. And I bet you think, where's RJ Barrett? Well, RJ Barrett's not here. And maybe Emmanuel Quickly's actually on the bench. Sky Barnes playing point forward. And maybe Cooper Flagg's on the bench because he's so young they're trying to test it. I don't know, but if this happens, I have to be 100% honest with you. I really do believe that this is the worst thing for Cooper Flagg. Because Scotty's the franchise player for them. Made it very clear with them not wanting to trade him for KD or Dame. Then you have Brandon Ingram coming in. I would still value Cooper Flagg over Brandon Ingram. I'd value Cooper Flagg over Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett. But there's a lot of touches and a lot of depth on that team that they need to really, and I mean really, pay attention to. So yeah, this would be a no-no in my opinion. Up next is the Miami Heat. I have a feeling in my gut for some reason the Miami Heat are going to get a good first-round pick. And if the Heat get a good first-round pick, if they get Cooper Flagg, I don't think that's bad. They would have a great trio young core of Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and Cooper Flagg, where you could see Bam really not running the offense and being more of that true defensive center like he's always been, maybe a little bit playmaking here and there. Cooper Flagg could really take on the scoring abilities and the defensive abilities down low. Tyler Hero could be the scoring player, and maybe Cooper Flagg actually has the ball because Tyler Hero's more likely an off-ball, creator. And then they have decent pieces around. This would not be bad, but still, I don't think it would be great for Cooper Flagg like a Wizards or Nets situation for him. To me, in my opinion, there is still a cap limit if you are joining the Heat, even though I think the Heat could coach Cooper Flagg to be one of the best players, coach them to be a great star. I think there's still a cap there, truthfully. Up next is Chicago Bulls. I think the Bulls is a sneaky great destination for him. Think of Josh Giddey, his passing ability. Kobe White not needing the ball in his hands a lot, being the scorer. That could be some assist numbers for Cooper Flagg. Matas Buzelis is the wild card here because Matas doesn't have the great defense. He could have great defense, but he can really be athletic, be a passer at times, and he's really learning how to shoot. So it makes me wonder what him and Cooper Flagg would look like together. I still think that it would be pretty nice, but I have to be honest, a little skeptical. And I have Nikola Vucevic here, but likely traded in the offseason. This is a sneaky good kind of pickup because I think Cooper Flagg is the franchise player if he joins. I think who was it just before? Why am I forgetting who just before? The Heat. I think Bam's your guy. Tyler Hero's your guy now with the All-Star. Is Cooper Flagg your guy moving forward? We'll see. But for the Bulls, I think it's Cooper Flagg. Then you have, Giddey, Kobe White, Matas Buzelis, and that's the 30 that you feel good on. Up next, San Antonio Spurs. I hope this doesn't happen because, my God, would this be unfair? Cooper Flagg and Victor Wembanyama is probably the duo that we really hope we never see in the NBA. Two defensive monsters. If this would happen, I have to be honest, Cooper Flagg, another limit on his ceiling. You have De'Aaron Fox there. I don't think that's entirely limiting him because he's going to be a little off-ball. You have Victor Wembanyama there, which I think that's the biggest thing. It's going to hurt Cooper Flagg a lot if Victor's there. Yes, when it comes to in real life basketball, it's going to be good for them. It's going to be bad for Cooper Flagg in fantasy-wise. So, again, not an ideal situation you would want to see. Portland Trail Blazers, for them being not as great and having crazy win streaks, you know what? I have to be honest. Cooper Flagg here, not terrible, because a lot of their team is built up on guards and some centers, where the forwards have kind of been lackluster or older or traded. Denny Avdija is talking about traded. One of the most underrated players in the NBA. You have Jeremy Grant. You have players you've drafted before that hasn't worked out entirely. Then in the guard position, you have Anthony Simons, Shannon Sharp, Scoot Henderson. You have centers, DeAndre Ayton, Robert Williams, Donovan Clingan. There's decent centers. There's good guards. You need that big, great power forward, small forward. Denny works well, but I would put Cooper Flagg over Jeremy Grant. Maybe Jeremy Grant goes small forward. You have Toumani Camara maybe going in there. Whatever it might be, Cooper Flagg, this isn't a terrible situation to be in. I would rather have him in this situation than the Raptors, than the Spurs, than a lot of different teams. Dallas Mavericks is another one that I hope to God he doesn't go to because, one, this would be the best thing for the Dallas Mavericks from the Lakers trade, which is crazy to say. They have a ton of tall forwards, power forwards, centers. Why is Cooper Flagg? Kind of a small forward, power forward guy. And if they already have PJ Washington, Anthony Davis there at power forward even. You have Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford. It's not ideal, but I have to say, Anthony Davis is your guy moving forward. Kyrie Irving's your guy moving forward. Cooper Flagg is the third guy there now because Cooper Flagg is probably exactly what Nico Harrison would want in a defensive guy that can kind of do it all, and he thinks defense wins championships. Well, my God, Cooper Flagg could be there for you for his shot blocking ability. Truthfully, I have to believe it might not be as bad as these others like the Raptors, but I don't think it's going to be as great because there's still so much there, and he might just be played as a bench player because we've already seen how they do with young players and how they value them, I guess. Up next is the Houston Rockets. This is another one that is a bad situation for him. You have Amen Thompson here. Fred VanVleet's on a team option. We'll see if they accept $40-something million. Maybe not. Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, and then there's a lot of power forwards, small forwards on the team that could really fill in that Dylan Brooks, Cooper Flagg spot in just Barry Smith Jr., Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore if you want to reach a little bit. So for him to go on this team, he might be coached well with an Ime Udoka who could really get out the defensive side of him, but he's not going to be the main passing. He's not going to look at assist. He might not be the main scoring option because of Jalen Green. He might get his own and sometimes, but again, it's not one of those scenarios where he's going to be the guy for them and they're going to build around him. They're probably building around Sengun and Amen Thompson, Jalen Green a little bit. So Cooper Flagg would probably be in there in some cases, but not entirely. Then we have the Sacramento Kings. I think this is the last one, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think this is as bad as what it looks like because you have a lot of older players or scoring players, excuse me, and it's still pretty bad looking at it. I mean, Zach LaVine's a ball-dominant player, DeMar DeRozan. The offense would run through Domantas Sabonis, so the assist numbers for Cooper Flagg wouldn't be as great, which I do believe if he's on a team like the Nets, you could really see some good assist numbers. And I think you really want him in these scenarios where his assist numbers are going to be high because he's going to be born in some traits that he's going to keep growing into traits to assist. So yeah, I feel decent with that, but still not great. I can say DeMar and Zach LaVine's a question mark. Domantas Sabonis has signed like a 5-year deal last offseason. So I think a Cooper Flagg and Domantas Sabonis duo would be insane and really well. But it's just going to take time before we see a great Cooper Flagg. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'm excited for the draft season. Hopefully you are too. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.